So I'm here in Porto. I just got finished with my Portuguese lesson. The tour guide, he's a tour guide, but he doesn't do big groups anymore. He had a couple of issues with some unfortunate people from America that were prejudiced against people of color, and so he doesn't do group tours anymore, which is really sad that that's his experience with Americans. But whatever, it worked out really well for me. I got a private lesson in Portuguese. I'm never going to remember hardly any of it. I might still be able to like order a cup of coffee, eu queria cafe, but other than that, it's, you know, it was just too quick of a lesson. He's gonna send me a PDF so that I can practice it along my route. And he actually lives in one of the cities that I will be walking through on my Camino. So he told me to reach out, and he and his wife, come and say hi, and we can maybe go get a cup of coffee with him and his wife. I think he has kids, so that will be nice. It gives me somebody here in Portugal that I, can at least say hi to. So I'm sitting in this beautiful park in Porto. It's absolutely beautiful. It has this amazing statue. But kind of the things that I've noticed as I've been wandering around Porto is this, Lisbon had a very historical feel to it, and the people that were there were clearly there sightseeing and were very touristy. It honestly kind of had this feel of like Pioneer Village at Lagoon, or some of the like European spots in Epcot Center and Disneyland. It just kind of had this really like almost amusement park kind of feel to it. As I was wandering around Lisbon, which was great. But here in Porto, clearly this is like the happening city. It's very, very lively. There's a lot of energy. It's very youthful. I see lots of groups of, like college age kids here. Oddly, a lot of groups of like college age, boys just wandering around the city. I don't see a lot of like big groups of women, but of men. I see a lot of college age men here. Just groups of them kind of wandering around. But it is a very, very lively city. Even, as I kind of turn up these streets and I'm like, oh no, I'm kind of headed into like a dead zone of Porto, and it's not. Everywhere I have gone has been very lively, very energetic. In the very brief Googling that I did of Porto, it's like one of the best cities. It was like named one of the best cities in Europe in like 2022 or something, and I can see why. It is absolutely a phenomenal city. I have absolutely loved being here, and I'm excited to kind of explore the city. So that has been nice. I did figure out something with my luggage. I hadn't really figured out what I was going to do once I got to the Compostela, and kind of the like interim time I had between finishing my Camino and getting to India. There isn't really like noisy. There isn't really like an airport out of Galicia, Spain, where I'll be. And so I was going to have to take a train kind of anywhere I went. And so I looked at Madrid and I looked at Barcelona. But what I've decided to do, and so some of my decisions have been made for me. What I did was I found a place here in Porto that will store my luggage for the next month. And so when I'm done with my Camino, I will just take a train back to Porto and get my luggage. And then from here, Porto has an airport that I can fly out of. And so my decision was kind of made for me as to what I'm going to do after the Camino. And the train from the cathedral in Spain back to Porto was like 11 euros. It's super cheap. The local regional trains and flights are very, very affordable here. Even from like Porto to Paris, where I was looking, it was like a $40 flight. You just kind of, once you're here, getting around Europe is very affordable. So you know, if I do have extra time, you know, that I have to kill before I get to India, you know, I can at least get places affordably. You know, finding accommodations, I'll probably be staying in hostels, just to keep it cheap. You know, I don't want to blow everything I have, you know, the first month that I'm here. Although I probably won't need a lot of money once I'm in India. Kind of everything is already kind of covered for me. My accommodations, my food, even some weekend excursions are covered as part of my venture there. And again, I haven't really talked about my trip to India yet, but I'll get to that. So anyway, so that's what I'm gonna do. Is I stored my luggage here in Porto, and when I'm done with the Camino, I'll just take a train back here. And I've loved this city. It has been great, and I'm really excited to kind of explore it a little bit more. I'm excited to be able to come back and explore it a little bit, you know, more without a timeline. And then tonight I was able to find this sailing tour of the bridges in the river here in Porto. It was like €50 for a 2-hour excursion, which I thought was very affordable. Obviously it's like a group thing, and so it's not just me that's going to be going. It's kind of a sunset cruise, and you know, one of the things that I was missing in Vermont was sailing. I've loved sailing, and you know, I found the sailing club in Vermont that it was like $500 for the year. It was basically like a ski pass, and I could rent any of the boats that they had anytime. I just kind of had to call a day or two in advance and let them know that I was coming and that I needed a boat. The one sort of downside to that was that I needed somebody to go with me, because you need a crew in order to sail. But that is something that I was missing, and the sailing club that I was a member of, they've kind of closed up this year due to some logistic issues. The landlord of their marina there, after like 45 years or 40 some odd years, decided to not renew their lease and to instead give that land to one of the bigger marinas nearby. I'm sure they're going to pay more, and so unfortunately the sailing club that I was a member of was closing down anyway. And so that is something that I was really sad about, that I was going to miss, is sailing and being out on the water. I love the water. I always have since I was a little kid. I love being out in the water. And so I'm really excited to be able to go sailing here. And here it'll be on a river, not in a bay, and there'll be more than just sailboats. And so it'll give me a really good opportunity to kind of learn sort of the right of ways when you're sailing on a river. There's specific directions or specific, you know, sides of the river that you have to follow depending upon where you're going. And that was always part of my sailing tests when I was taking my sailing certification tests. But I've never really gotten a chance to use it. In Vermont, the bay that I would sail in, there was not enough people, and there was really only sailors. There wasn't like motorboats, there wasn't big cruise ships, there wasn't, you know, any of those kinds of things to have to really interact with. That I never really had to deal with, you know, the right of way. You just sort of avoided people. It was a little bit different of an experience. So I am kind of excited to be able to talk to somebody that has some real like ocean Atlantic sailing experience, that sails on these rivers, and really be able to see sort of the, you know, the markers out in the river, and really kind of experience that from a completely different experience of sailing than I've ever experienced. And the boat that I'll be sailing on tonight is a lot larger than the one that I learned on. The sailboat that I learned on was very small, a very small racing boat. It didn't have a cabin. It just had a cockpit, and really 3 people was kind of tight. I did sail in one of those boats with 4 people once, and that like you just stayed where you were. You couldn't move around the cockpit. It just was too small. And so it will be a completely different experience for me to sail on this, larger boat and in a river and follow these markers. And I know I'm going as a tourist, and so I'm not really as a sailor, but I still will be able to experience that and and get out on the water, because I have been dying to get out on the water. The view of the city from the water is so different from the view like in town, and I'll be able to see the bridges and go underneath the bridges, and the bridges here are amazing. Just absolutely amazing bridges. So I'm very excited to be able to do that tonight, and I will bring my camera and I will film as much of it as I can. So I'm very excited to do that tonight. And then I'm going to just wander around the city. I'm done with my my lesson, and so I have a couple of hours before I'm supposed to go sailing. So I'll just see what I can see. And then the other thing I've noticed about wandering around Porto is that, like Lisbon, a lot of the buildings are covered in tiles, but the tiles on the buildings here are very colorful and have really interesting, not ornate, but really interesting patterns. A lot, the tiles in Lisbon were clearly very historical, and definitely to be appreciated for what they are. But the tile in Porto is colorful and lively, and it really does fit the energy of the city and the liveliness of the city. And kind of everywhere I go, there's something. It really is a fantastic city. I really liked being here, and so I am excited to be able to come back. And then once I come back to Porto after my Camino, I don't know, maybe I'll stay here a couple of days afterward. I've been trying to find the cheapest flights into India, and as of right now, the cheapest flights I can find are out of Istanbul or out of Sofia, Bulgaria. And so I don't know if I'll spend some time here or if I'll try to go. Istanbul, I don't love. I mean, yes, the flight is cheaper for sure, but I don't love having to go to Istanbul. Not because I'm scared to, but in order to go there, I have to get a visa and I have to change all the currency. And so I was just trying to avoid having to do that. I was trying to stay sort of in the EU area so that I didn't have to change currency and I didn't have to worry about visas. I will have to get a visa to go into India. So I was just trying to avoid that. So I may fly out of Bulgaria. And again, the flights, the regional flights around Europe are very inexpensive. And so I can get a flight from Porto to Bulgaria fairly cheaply. And then a flight from Bulgaria into India. And as part of my visa, I have to include the flight that leaves India. They want to make sure that you're leaving, whereas in coming to Portugal, they didn't care. They just asked me where I was going and how long I was going to be here. They didn't really care when I planned to leave. So I don't have a return flight home yet, partly because I haven't fully planned out the rest of my summer. And again, some of it will depend upon how much money I have at the end of the summer. So yeah, that's kind of my plans. My plans were kind of made for me, just having to deal with my luggage. But I'm not disappointed by it. I'm kind of glad to have some plans, to know what I'm doing, and to know that my luggage is safe, and to have a place for it. And it's kind of nice, this service. It's just an apartment complex that also kind of has this little tourist store at the bottom of it that just has a bunch of lockers in the back that they rent out for an hour, for a day, for obviously a month. And they gave me the key, and so when I come back to Porto, I can just go in and unlock my bag and give them the key back, and it's just gonna stay there. So it's a really nice service that they provide. And so if you are a tourist and you're just wandering around, it'd be nice to just dump your bag somewhere, especially if you're like one of these backpackers. And there are a lot of backpackers. Clearly backpacking around Europe is like the thing. And so you can go dump your bag there for a day, for a night, or whatever, and wander around the city and not have to worry about carrying around your backpack. So that was a relief to have my luggage taken care of, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. And now I can just enjoy my Camino and not have to stress about my luggage. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, and I will just continue to wander around Porto and the city, and then I will go sailing tonight. So yeah, anyway, that's an update for today. I will try to keep you updated as best I can. I didn't really expect today to be really like a day where I got to see the city too much. I thought it would be a day where I spent mostly trying to take care of my luggage, and so it is nice that I have that taken care of, and I can spend some time wandering around the city and experience Porto. And then tomorrow I'm doing that baking class and the wine tour, so that's nice. And then yeah, I will continue to try to film and continue to try to update. You know, and some of the filming that I'm doing is more for my benefit than, you know, anybody that might be watching this. It's really enjoyable for me to, at the end of the day, go back and like re-watch where I've been and kind of re-experience it. It really is a nice way to kind of end the day, and it really kind of helps like solidify my experience here as I travel around. So anyway, that's been kind of my experience. It was nice to have a friendly person to chat with that speaks English very well. His wife is from California. He met her when he was living in Monterey, California, and so, you know, he speaks English very well, and so that was a really value add to my travels here, to be able to go and kind of learn the language from a native, even though I'm never going to remember hardly any of it. There was some, you know, as I was kind of going through the language, because it is, you know, primarily a Latin-based language, and so some of my French from high school and college did start to creep out, and I did start to kind of make some connections and connect some dots. But you know, the pronunciations, I'm sure I sound very American. There's no question in my mind. I sound very American. But you know, I'm going to continue to try, and then, you know, the thing about learning a language is using it, and so I'm going to try to make sure I say something in Portuguese every day, and really try to use it along my Camino, and you know, ordering at restaurants, and you know, just even just the greetings and the, you know, the thank yous, you know, and some of it is similar to Spanish. So like de nada is, you know, you're welcome in Spanish and also in Portuguese. So there were some similarities that, you know, kind of once I start using it, I'm sure I'll start to connect some dots. But you know, until I start using it's just in one ear out the other. But anyway, that was my experience with my Portuguese lesson, and now I'm just gonna wander around and I will film what I can. Ciao. So I'm here at this park, and this tree right behind me is a ginkgo biloba tree. And it reminded me of this story. This woman I lived in my neighborhood growing up, Tammy. She worked at this like assisted living or physical therapy place, maybe. I'm not sure exactly, actually. But she had a coworker that was obsessed with his memory and all these memory tricks that he had. And he would take ginkgo biloba, and that's why it reminded me. And because ginkgo biloba is said to help you with your memory. And he came to her one day and said, "Okay, I've memorized 5 jokes, and I've assigned them to a number. So you can tell me a number, and I will tell you the joke that goes along with the number." And so she said, "Okay, 4." And he sat and thought about it for a while, and then was like, "Well, I don't remember that joke, but let me tell you this other joke." And that has always like stuck out in my head. Every time I see ginkgo biloba, I always think of this story of this man that was all into these memory games, but couldn't remember his jokes that he was trying to remember. And so it always makes me question, does it really help? And so I've never actually seen a tree in real life, but there you go, there was a ginkgo biloba tree. There's my story for the day. All these baby chickens. They don't even really seem to care that I'm here or notice. Probably very used to people. And at this arena, the Super Block Arena, it's kind of like the Delta Center, which I know it's not called the Delta Center anymore. I don't know what it's called. I never really cared. But anyway, I thought I would show you this view. I'm kind of up here on this hill, and I can kind of have a good view of the city and the surrounding area from up here. And so I was gonna film as I kind of got closer to this overlook of the city. It's very cool city. Lisbon and Porto have been both very hilly. There are a lot of hills. Get used to walking up hills. But it is an absolutely beautiful city, kind of on the coast here. And yeah, we can have these overlooks. Oh, and it looks over this garden. So there's Porto. And I'm headed down to the marina, down to the river. Yeah, these are beautiful rose garden, it looks like. And as I was taking the train, they did drive past a cemetery, and I love the cemeteries in Vermont, or even just back east in general. And so I do kind of want to find a cemetery here. And kind of see the difference of the cemeteries here. It looked very different from the cemeteries in Vermont. Cemeteries in Vermont are very spook alley. Oh, look, peacock. I want to see your peacock. Got your peacock. Doesn't care that I'm here. And the roosters. Oh, look, there's another one. And citrus and orange trees and lemon trees do grow grow here in Portugal. In fact, they say that like the smells of the city are often very citrusy as a result of these trees, but I have not come across any that I know of, and maybe it's just because they haven't aren't bearing fruit, and so I don't know what the actual tree looks like necessarily. But I haven't seen any citrus trees. Hey, Mr. Dude. But now you can see the river from over here. It is absolutely beautiful. This looks like an olive tree. And you know, it is, you know, on the Mediterranean, so olives are very, very common here. There's the peacock. Yeah, look at that river. And you can see from here, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. The different colored buoys in the river, they mean different things, and you have to go on different sides of them depending upon which direction you're headed, whether you're headed upstream or downstream. And again, that was part of my certification test for my sailing, but I don't remember them because I never had to use it. So anyway, it looks like you're supposed to keep the red ones on port side and the green ones on starboard side, but I'm hoping to kind of get a refresher tonight. We have this beautiful fountain, these beautiful trees, this beautiful park. Porto. There's this trolley. The tour guide that taught me Portuguese told me to take that trolley. It's a good way to see the city. It takes you right along the coast, and it has stops kind of all over. I was planning on doing it kind of tomorrow morning before my baking class, but maybe I'll do it sooner than that. My cell phone has died, so I do need to find a place to charge my cell phone, if for no other reason than it's my map. And so while I'm okay for now, kind of just wandering the city, in about an hour I'm going to have to really make an attempt to figure out where I am and call an Uber to the marina. The marina I'm going to is actually on the other side of the river, and I don't think that it's super walkable, so I either have to take a bus or Uber. So I'm going to have to figure out how to charge my phone so that I can do either one of those things. So anyway, I just thought I would film the trolley and do this walk up the hill into this square up here. I do really like that these cities do kind of have these squares or parks kind of all over that you can always stop and sit down. They always have a water fountain so you can fill up your water. So that is very nice. Most of the cafes and restaurants do close between like 3 and 7 here. And so finding a cafe where I can charge my phone is probably going to be a little bit difficult right now. But I don't know, I'll do my best. This beautiful park out in the middle of the city, and all these shops and restaurants, again, closed. I don't hate that. It does mean you have to plan more in advance, but you know, we should probably do that more anyway. So anyway, this spot is like raised and textured. I don't know if you can see it, but it's not flat. Very cool. Okay, this is something that I found really interesting. As I was taking my Uber to my hotel this morning, I was I was watching the map, and it was told them to turn right into like this common area. But you can see like where this car is, it is actually a road, even though it's like part of this plaza. It's a good thing that I don't drive, or I would never have found that. I would never have like turned on that thinking that was a road, but it is. Very strange road, but a road. Even has like a road sign. Yeah, here I go, walking on the road. It's only blocked off by these posts. That is very, very abnormal and very, very unlike anything I've ever seen. I like this cargo ship made out of tile. Cute little accent to the stairs here. Completely by accident, I seem to have found my hotel, which I didn't realize I was that close to, so that's nice. And then I can go charge my phone and freshen up a little bit, because I'm day 3 or 4 in these clothes, and it's fairly noticeable. And my room is on the first floor, oddly. Attempt at eating seafood number 1. I have a pound roe with salmon. And of all the seafood I can't eat, sushi is seemingly the only thing that doesn't bother me to eat, although usually it doesn't have this much fish. But I thought this was a good intro into seafood. Salmon has always been one of the fishes that I have sort of been able to tolerate, and again, for some reason I've been able to eat sushi. So here I am trying seafood. I also did order a steak to go along with it, so I didn't starve, but it tastes like sushi, so it's delicious. There was a couple of accidents on the route to the marina, and it made me late, and so I missed the sailing cruise, because it was a group, and so they, obviously had to go at the scheduled time, so not interrupt everybody else. And so I unfortunately am not going to be able to go sailing, but I'm still here at the marina, and I still get the sound of the water and the smell and the wind in your face. And those are some of my very favorite things about sailing. And I still get this beautiful sunset and this beautiful view of the city. So while I missed the sailing trip and I'm not out on the water, and that is a bummer, I am still able to enjoy and appreciate the beauty in front of me. And it is absolutely beautiful. This is a beautiful sunset, and it is a lovely evening, and I had a wonderful dinner at the restaurant here. And so yeah, I still get to enjoy the coast and the water, and you can kind of, I don't know if you can, but you can kind of see the fish out there jumping in the water. There is a fisherman along the beach there that is fishing. I have no idea what fish is out there, but that's the ocean. So, ooh, that was a big fish. Anyway, so I still get to enjoy it. I still get to be by the water, and I still love that. Sailing is not one of those boating experiences where you get in the water anyway, so it's not like I would be in the water doing water sports or anything. I would still just be in the boat. And so this is as good as it gets, and as close to that as you can hope for. And you can see the sailboats off in the distance coming into port. But it is absolutely beautiful here. And you're watching the fish jump. That's pretty cool. So off there in the distance, you can see the bridge. That's the bridge that I crossed to get here. It's very high up and a very large bridge. There is a guy that takes you on a nighttime climb. I mean, where you strap in like rock climbing or like construction worker, and you can climb up that arch there. And while that looks and sounds cool, I am terrified of heights, and so that is not something that I was interested in doing. But it is an option and an opportunity that people like to take advantage of with that bridge. But it is a very cool bridge. It was very cool to cross it. It was very, very high, and I just had to kind of remember that I was safe and not notice how high I was up when I crossed it. Otherwise I would have been freaking out. But anyway, I wanted to show you that bridge before I left, because it was such a cool bridge.
Shaking my tongue, giving back the road, back was just to try to see it clear. A breath full of glass, so I dream for hesitate no more, no more. It cannot wait. I'm yours.